Welcome back. My name is Joshua Yankovic, and this is The Entrepreneur, a podcast dedicated to those who are interested in making a living doing what they love to do. Whether you're in that process or you're well into influencing and creating multi-international businesses.
Try to take over the world.
This podcast has value for everybody, and I'm extremely excited to have you here today. We're going to be talking a little bit about self-love and how it reflects in business as well as life. And if you're interested in that, get ready. This is going to be a fantastic episode. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to The Entrepreneur. My name is Joshua Yankovic, and I am super excited for you to be here today. Joining me is someone who I have been inspired by. I found her social media a while back, and I instantly resonated with every single part of it. I just am so excited for you to be listening today and being here with us. Let me welcome to the show, Clotilda Demauro.
I don't know what is happening because I don't cry like that easily. I feel like I react and more explosive and I don't know, but randomly. And maybe that's one of these moments right now. I'm tearing up right now. Wow. Hi, Joshua. Thank you so much for having me on. This is a blessing.
I'm super excited for you to be here, and I'm really excited for anyone that's getting to listen to this. It's their honor as well as mine to have you here in the room.
It's my honor to be here.
So I asked you originally to come on the podcast because most of your content, and from my perspective, is not necessarily self-improvement, but self-empowerment and being your authentic self 100%, putting yourself out there. And I think that so many people, including myself, struggle with putting themselves out onto social media for fear of what other people will think, but also for fear of like how they'll look. And from what I've seen, like your content is constantly like in a cycle of empowering other people and empowering others to do what they're scared to do and be their best self. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
So can you tell me and the listeners that are listening, like what it is that you do and what inspires you to create?
My brain's exploding right now. So as these neurons just literally like fireworks. Okay, organized fireworks. Okay, I can only explain it as this. I feel as though there are so many different versions of me. There are so many, I would say humans, but they're animals and they're trees and they're every entity that exists ever that I could come up with exists inside of me. And if I try and rein that in one way, I will explode. And I guess that was a lot of my experience when I was younger, is like maybe I was told I was something or thought I had to be one thing, and it caused me to feel a lot of suffering and limitation. I was explaining to you earlier that I've always felt like there's a tiger inside of me, and I just need to let the tiger out of the freaking cage. So for me, social media has been one of the most liberating spaces because I've liberated myself to existing as every single version that shows up, not in a day, not when I wake up in the morning. I'm talking minute to minute, second to second. I can just release it, let it freaking rip.
And that's truly what it is. Like it's an outlet. And most people are so scared to put their authentic self in front of what is imagined to be, everyone, the world. So how did you conquer some of that?
That feeling, that fear, it eventually lets up.
Yeah.
It eventually lets up because it really is just basically your brain saying, we haven't done this before. And however our nature works in terms of fight or flight and survival, and we might die if you try anything different than what we've been doing. So that's literally the fear that comes up in people. That's why everyone's talking about it. It's not because, it's just getting over insecurities. No, your body thinks you're going to die.
It feels that way to some people.
It does feel that way.
To probably most people.
Yes.
You know what I heard the other day is like on the other side of your fears is strength and the happiness that you're looking for. And then on the other side of insecurities is the abundant blessings that you've been missing.
Oh, yep. And you know what? It's like crazy because for as many books as I've read and as many, I can watch the talks all day. I talk about what I talk about and I speak on what I speak on because I've experienced it. Because for as la-di-da-di-do-di-da-di as I am and spiritual and all those things, and everything is spiritual. I even logic is spiritual. So let me rephrase myself. But I've always been I need to try it to know it exists. I'm grateful for that because I think that's why I can speak on the things I speak on so passionately is because I have literal experience with them. Because I've trialed and erred just about everything because I refuse to live an existence genuinely where I settle or that I feel like is dull. Like I want to make even the dull moments insane. I don't think it's about looking for insane moments. I think it's about finding.
And when you say insane, like the best it could possibly be, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's why it's like we are in the country of Missouri right now. The country of Missouri. I don't,
the countryside.
Oh, guys, I know that Missouri is not a country. Or on the countryside in Missouri. Some might hear, what is over there? I walk in this room and I'm like, this is literally the most beautiful place I've ever been in my entire life. And I genuinely do mean that. And I have traveled all over the entire world. I've lived everywhere and I found beauty in all those places. But like, gosh dang it, the beauty I found in the Midwest, it's just incomparable to anything. Is that me? I don't know. I don't want to say, I don't feel like I have a choice but to find the life everywhere I am. I feel like any other way to live just kind of stinks because then you're constantly looking to like a different moment. So then where you're at right now.
Would you say that's a habit that you've developed in? It's a habit of seeing positivity and
Yes.
spiritual like goodness.
Yes.
And abundance.
Yes.
Everywhere you walk.
Yes.
Everywhere everywhere you're consciously going.
Yes. And I don't feel like it's, people think it's, some people just have that mindset, some don't. No, it's taken active practice until eventually my brain was on board. And then
That's a key right there. It's like
yeah.
active practice until the brain catches up.
Because the brain will catch up and you got to trust that. And
It'll have no choice.
it literally has no choice. Like it's I don't know. We are constantly connecting the neurons in our brains as we speak, as we think, as we move, as we observe everything we do.
Right, and creating new neurons and new pathways with every experience that you
Yes.
accept as is.
Yes. And that's when people talk about like, oh, I'm getting a download, like define it however you want.
Right, there's lots of ways to word it.
There's so many different ways to word it, and whatever resonates and lights your freaking fire.
I kind of like download.
I like download
like,
too.
It's just it sounds it's not new agey and it's more techy because we're in that future.
Yeah.
Like, and everyone is at the point where like we understand that this is a frequency that we're living on. It's a wavelength
Yes.
that I'm floating in.
Yes.
And I'm able to receive downloads.
Yes, it's really cool in that way. It kind of makes me, I think it simplifies things because I like to think of myself as like a machine or like computer because that means I can hack into it.
This body is the greatest machine ever.
Yes.
Ever.
And we get to program it. How fun. I get to jailbreak it and put all the fun games on it. And that's what I feel like I'm here to do and just have fun with everything. But in terms of like that fear and that discomfort we were just talking about, so this is what I have to remind myself. The fear and the discomfort, it eventually passes. It does. And I know it feels like it is just taking over your body and breaking your back and ripping out your stomach. So that feeling passes and then is replaced with one of bliss and pleasure because you've just aligned yourself to your inner source, your inner guidance system, your truth, your soul, whatever you want to call it. You've freaking balanced out your whatever.
Yeah, it reminds me of an interaction I had with you before we met, where I said something and I made like a comment where I was like, "Oh, that's like bothers my ego, putting me on blast," or like,
"Oh, I remember this."
And you said, "I thought about this same thing." And you said, "The discomfort will eventually leave and never come back. Just don't stop because you have so much wisdom to share." You have so much wisdom to share as well. You listening right now are on the same conscious experience of, obviously you're having your own, but you're just as worth doing everything you think you could do. And that's speaking to myself too. Like, I have to tell myself things like that all the time. I have to say, when you're in that point, you're at that point. So you're accepting what is. It's a state of surrender, in my opinion. Like, it's just a state of total surrender, because people think of fear and weakness when the word surrender is brought up. But surrender is like so powerfully, like, it's the biggest strength you could possibly have, because surrender equates to letting go of the thoughts, and it allows you to live in between the space between thoughts. So you don't have to like hang on to any of these thoughts. And that's a big thing that I've come into recently. It was like, I'm going to keep having these negative thoughts. I'm going to keep having issues in my head, but those are not me. Like, I am not my thoughts. I am not my feelings even. I am not this brain. I can live in between that. So you're like, what you're saying is you're coming to a complete acceptance of what is, because there's no such thing as any problems. A problem is just resistance to what really already is there. Does that make sense?
It literally...
And I've heard that from multiple places.
It's kind of, it makes me think about social anxiety. People think the solution is you do something enough that suddenly you're not anxious anymore when you go out to socialize. What happens is that you accept the anxiety as being present, and you're cool with it. And then, yes.
Right, doing it anyway. You're doing what you're doing anyway.
Because literally in that acceptance, then yeah, the anxiety goes away. Because often we get anxious about the anxiety, and that's what makes the anxiety worse. But it's getting over social anxiety is not... I post a lot of videos of me just, out in public talking to strangers. And I've seen people comment things like, oh, my social anxiety could never. And what I say is, it doesn't mean that mine isn't. That exists. That feeling passes in the acceptance of, like, it doesn't mean that at the beginning of interactions you might not be you might be uncomfortable. I accept that in order to make new friends, it could be accompanied with a feeling of discomfort at the beginning. But in order for me to make new friends and get to that eventual feeling of comfortability, this is a feeling I'm willing to experience to get to that place.
Right. Also give yourself some credit. Like, you've already been doing this. You've already been doing this. Like, you have fears and anxieties, and you've already been overcoming them. The bigger ones, like, for example, putting yourself out on social media more and in an authentic way, that's you, is just it's the same thing. It's the same action. You're still doing it anyway. You're still taking that action despite the thoughts that you may be having about it in the back.
Yes. And the reason I think that also, like, I love posting, I love challenging myself in that way, is because people are like, oh, but I couldn't deal with the fears that could come up. No, you want to deal with the fears that come up, because then eventually they'll go away. It'll just build your confidence. So for me, I say that posting and putting your stuff out there is like a fast track way to getting over insecurity that's going to be there inevitably. That was going to come up whether it was this year or 10 years from now. Like, it was inevitable. So, like, for you to do the most extreme thing of put your most vulnerable self out there, and that's going to look different for everyone. For one person, it might be just unveiling their soul and talking about their emotions. That might be easy to someone who's never put out their music before. Maybe they've talked about their emotions, but they've never put out their voice or singing before. That'd be crazy to them. Whatever the most vulnerable thing is for you, put that out there. That fear and discomfort eventually passes. Okay, people eventually find you just like you, who literally love everything you do, and you're like, this is insane. And all the parts of yourself that you were terrified to put out there, all the niche little weird little things about yourself that you're like, oh my God, I hate the way my eyebrow moves when I like talk about this thing, or it's a twitch or whatever it is, ends up being the things that people relate to you the most about. Okay, at the end of the day, neither crowd really matters. All that matters is what you think about yourself, because that's going to be the thing that's going to carry you through and through, because you're going to end up wanting to change things too. You're going to end up wanting to go in different directions. Maybe one day you're a musician, the next you want to be, I don't know, whatever it is, you want to paint houses and show people how you like to paint houses. You can't build your... It doesn't matter, but you can't build your confidence off your audience, because they might, really enjoy just one thing you do, and that might feel like you don't want to limit yourself anyway. So make sure that, like, you're just staying true to the fact that you're constantly changing. And that's why I say, like, I love to say that I embrace every version of myself, because in that, that gives me a freedom. That tomorrow I can wake up and want to do something different and not be limited to that. Exactly.
This brings up a thought for me with who is your audience. It's the people who are just like you, but at the same time, your audience may not be your friends and family, because if you aren't posting and you're not creating content because you know that your family and friends know how you used to be or how you used to live life, they aren't your audience. Like, your audience is out there. They're honestly, like, you can put it like, they're waiting to hear from you.
Yes.
They're waiting to hear from you.
And you're focused on like 5 family members who, by
And
the
it's
way,
like, who will never like really influence or have any part of your life that is meaningful, like as far as like your success.
Right.
They have nothing to do with your success. So it's like, it's just an excuse. And we have to come to the point where there's no excuses.
And you know what's funny? People don't realize this, and I had to learn this just through the discomfort I experienced. Like, I feel like TikTok started as like my private corner, and in many ways it still is. Like, I can't describe it to you, but I have this like this thing associated with TikTok where if I post on TikTok,
Will you throw up your TikTok tag real quick?
Clotilda Demauro.
No, I mean, you can literally throw it up.
Oh.
Like, imagine it's floating in the air right next to you.
Was that good?
Yeah.
So, even now I still have this idea of TikTok being like this private corner where no one sees anything I post except for the people in that corner. And in my world, that's just the case. But anyway, I've learned to integrate Instagram more and not care. Obviously, you know, as you guys know, if you operate on social media, that's probably where your friends and your family and your friends from high school are. Guess what? People will adapt. People have no choice but to adapt to this version of you. Mother, father, everything. And if they don't, what a even better way to challenge yourself to build your confidence. And because you deserve to do what you love. You deserve to do the things that give you fire. You deserve to do the things that make you feel so lit off life. There isn't enough hours in the day. And I know you know the feeling, because we're talking about the feeling where it just feels like you're freaking buzzing. And you're like, dang it, I have to sleep? Really?
Right.
Like, I promise you won't want to sleep. And you should. 4 to 5 hours is good. Get it in there. You should sleep. But there is an existence I've experienced. That's why I've become so passionate about it, where when I'm in it, I don't want to leave it, and that's when I'm like aligned with my source or whatever that thing is. It's just getting me freaking buzzing. But yeah,
The higher power it's in everything. I mean, it's in everything. There's nothing that there's no set like I can't even remember what philosophy it is, but there's no separation. There is no separation between space. There is no actual space.
I
We're here.
used to say stuff like high vibration, low vibration, soul tribe, this and that. I don't anymore. It creates more separation. No one wants. At the end of the day, I think that like
labels really do.
They do, right?
And there's also a little bit of ego coming into it, because it's like, I'm high vibration.
Yeah, my people get it. And that's why I used to be like, you'll find your people. Often your people are going to be the people just nothing like you. And you can learn so much from them. Like, obviously having, your quote unquote soul fam is a beautiful, really safe space. But I've learned the most by being uncomfortable and unsafe.
Right.
And like, there's someone who thinks so differently than me, but has brought so much wisdom into my life through the way that they operate. And like, I use like, I don't know, like, I don't even want to label them as like realists or like cynics. I used to use those labels. I don't really use them anymore. There's something really beautiful about those people, because they're so focused on what's directly in front of them.
Yeah.
And it makes them so
the here and
present.
now.
You will find
the isness of what is.
Yes. And you will find those are some of the people with the most beautiful philosophies on life. They're like, yep, don't know what happens when I die. Don't really care. Kind of just focus on right now.
What's in front of you? I like that you said that. That's
Yes.
that's a key. Like,
They're always the quickest manifestors. They're always the quickest. They're always like, so abundant, all this stuff, because they're not thinking about what could come next. They're just thinking about what they have to do right here, right now. And that is beautiful to me. So I've learned a lot from those people in my life, and they ground you in such a way,
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. So let's get into like a little bit about what we have come to talk about today, which is the concept of self-love and business. So thank you for being with us for the introduction to this podcast episode, which is focusing on self-love and how it empowers us in business, or in general, like any part of your life. Like, it's an integral part of every single part of our lives. And so I've asked Clotilda to come today and tell us about self-love and help me define what it is and what it is not.
For me, self-love, and I'm going to say this a million times, you're just going to hear me say this over and over and over again. We've already talked about it. I'm going to continue talking about it. But it's the acceptance and the understanding of, not understanding in such a way that I need to know the reasons as to why, but the acceptance of every single version of myself, and that being never ending, infinite. I will die with a million more versions of myself I haven't explored, and that is okay. And not attaching to any of them as being the only thing I am. And so every single day I wake up, every moment I exist is freaking beautiful. I would say the good and the bad, the beautiful and the ugly, but they're all just freaking beautiful and amazing. And you said everything self-love is not. It all is love.
True. Okay, true.
So that was my answer.
Oh, you're right. You know what? I think we leave it at that. You know, that's fine. Because even, and this is something I've been learning in the past year. So it's like, even loving the bad times and the difficult experiences, the more when it feels like it's the end of the world, when it feels like it's, you know, everything's going to hell, I can actually pull myself away from that and say, this is still beautiful. Like, this is still a good experience for me that I'm having, and it sucks so bad. Like, I got a flat tire a couple weeks ago, or a week ago, hit a pothole on I-35 South and busted one tire and bent the rim on the other tire, on the other wheel. I was standing on the side of the road like, you know what? Oh, it's fine. It's like, whatever. Like, I'll call somebody. It's no big deal. Like, what an experience.
Dude, I literally, like 2 months ago, I was on my way to work. I was walking out to my car, and that's when I saw about half of my car. And I'm like, well, that's not my car. So I kept looking around for my car. And I'm like, hold up. That's my car. That's just not my full car. That's a totaled car. And my car
Somebody hit it?
Yeah, a tow truck hit it in the middle of the night.
Oh.
And I immediately start laughing. Not like a ha ha ha, F my life. No, like a, what, like, wow, what a change in my day. Like, I'm literally laughing. The girl next to me also got hit, and she's on her knees in devastation. And completely valid, like, so valid. And in that moment, I'm like, am I crazy? Am I too detached and all this stuff? And I'm like, no, like, this is just, like, the way that things just... because I've experienced it, and I know you've experienced it too, but like, when we just accept exactly how things are, exactly how we are in that moment, whatever it is, the way that, like, whatever we need just flows so much easier to us, whether it be the conversation we really needed to have after experiencing that negative emotion, or like, I don't know, suddenly there's a random new job offer or whatever it is that comes in. Things just move so much smoother when you accept what is.
What is.
Yeah.
I love that you keep coming back to that. It's just what is.
Yeah.
The isness.
The isness.
Love it. Okay, so second part of the self-love talk. How does someone deal with... So I asked what self-talk is not. I would say self-love is not negative self-talk. Let's talk a little bit about how to deal, and it can be short because I feel like it's actually a pretty short, simple answer, even though we need to define it in a way that makes sense for everybody. How do you deal with the negative self-talk that you are having on any given day or moment about any situation? Because you could have had some negative thoughts when your car got totaled.
Right. I think that once you understand that the negative self-talk, even if the language that of the words in your head is not the truth of the situation, it's always pointing to the truth of a situation. It's always pointing to how do I word this? It's always pointing me towards something better for me. So the awareness that the self-talk is there for a reason. And it's indicative of something within me that needs to be solved. And I love being a problem solver. So like the negative self-talk in a way, even if not in the moment, like just its existence, whenever it comes up, I'm like, frick yeah, what do I get to learn about myself? And like get excited about that. I'm grateful. So like in those moments, I'm grateful that through this, I get to learn something about myself. I know that life does not need to be level up. I don't think that's the point of it
because
all.
That's not what is.
Exactly.
And that's a big thing I've gotten through in the past year, because I became addicted to self-improvement, like all the time. What can I get better? What can I do? And then I heard someone said that was so significant to me. It was like, when you constantly look for things to fix in yourself, and then you go about fixing them, the brain and your body say, oh, you liked
There's always
fixing something?
fix.
You liked that feeling of fixing something?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to keep giving you
Things to
more things to fix.
Yeah.
So as soon as I heard that, I was like, oh my gosh, I really do have to listen to all the things I've been hearing and reading for years, and I think it even goes back to like 10 years ago, hearing Alan Watts say like the self-improvement, like you just have to be what is.
Yeah.
You're already there.
Yeah.
You can't improve what it already is.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
When people are like, oh, you just have to access source, meditate, access source. And meditation definitely helps, because I feel like it can really simplify things.
Yeah.
But constantly remember that you are source. You are that. You are that in all the moments that you exist. Some moments you might feel better in your body. And so it might feel like, oh, now I'm really accessing my source. You were literally made from source. You came here for a physical experience. So those thoughts are part of that physical experience.
Yeah.
You know, I do believe that my soul requested every experience that I go through.
That's funny, because I'm in the same boat.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, I think that I knew everything that was going to happen before I manifested into this plane of existence.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't necessarily pick it, but I knew coming into this how difficult and not difficult, and the experiences I was going to learn and go through, I knew all of it before it came. And then that gets me back to like, okay, what's my divine like right? And that's actually kind of has a negative connotation a little bit sometimes. If you say like, oh, it's my divine right, sounds like a little entitled. So it's not an entitlement thing. It's like, it's already what is. Mm-hmm. It's in the flow of what your life is already doing. And every time I have a problem, and every time I accept that problem as what is, I'm removing the resistance to what is and allowing everything to flow the exact way it needs to flow. So that's how I've been overcoming the negative self-talk, and often also thinking the exact opposite as soon as I have a negative thought. Because my mind and my brain tell a lot of like things that are not real and not true. I'm real bad about like creating misery in my own life. And no, I can't say that. I used to do that. I used to do that. I have not. This being before you is a badass who doesn't have
Joshua
problems.
saw me twitch. I was like, don't interrupt him. I'm getting better at bringing in joy and pleasure and bliss into my life.
Yes. Those affirmations that must be implemented into our lives, because that is what is. And I love that.
I love that. I love that.
I also love, a little bit ago, I heard, all I can do is all I can do. But all I can do is enough.
Because that's all you can do. You know, I feel like I used to go into these really intense modes of discipline.
Yeah.
If I do this, this, and this, then by 3 days from now, I'll be a little bit better. And it's true. Mm-hmm. It's true. I was a little bit better.
Yeah. But it never ends.
But it's still putting a Band-Aid on the bullet hole. I feel like really cleaning out that wound as being like, this is exactly who I am. And that is so freaking beautiful. And I love that, because I trust
the good, the bad, the ugly, all of it.
Yeah. I trust that this is the exact direction I'm supposed to be in. Not even to go anywhere, to do anything. But I trust that for whatever reason, these thoughts that are in my head right now are literally just supposed to be here. And I can't tell you why. I don't know that. It's not really my responsibility to know. But I trust that I'm going to make more progress and feel better quicker by just accepting this as who I am right now. And in that, I was also going to say, like, you ask how I deal with negative self-talk. I think I used to really want to analyze everything for the purpose of learning something. And now, honestly, hey, go have freaking fun. Go hang out with your friends. Go watch a Netflix show. Go watch your favorite show. Like, go do some art. Sometimes people, like, the reason I say go watch a show is sometimes people feel so paralyzed by those thoughts, that they don't feel like they can do their art because they've now put it, there's this whole narrative of your art will free you, your art will free you, and it really will free you, but you have to free yourself first to even be in a place to like feel inspired to go sit down and do that art. So like give yourself grace. If that means you want to like order in some takeout and watch a freaking show, by goodness gracious, please do that. Like,
so what you're describing is like you're treating yourself like you're your own best friend. Like you're your own like person. You're your own best friend for yourself. Like we're so like ready and apt to help others and do and we know what everyone else could need. We're so good at telling, like not telling, but just knowing what other people might need, yet we don't do it for ourselves. Like,
what would you say if you were to call your best friend right now, like, well, literally, what would you say? You say, Bestie, sit down, like, eat that freaking donut. You deserve it. You've been working so hard. Are you kidding me? Like, all the things. And then when it's you, it's like, no, okay, you better for the next 3 days, don't eat gluten. Don't do this. Don't do
all
that.
Limits.
Like,
those are all limits you're placing on those are all limits that we place on ourselves that limit us from what is. Always back to like that what is.
Always.
Yep, it is. It really is. Okay, so back to self-love now. So I think we kind of unpacked what negative self-talk is and why and how we overcome it. Why we need to overcome it and why and how we overcome it. So I want to get back to self-love and let's talk about, actually I just want to hear from you. Like what are some tips that you would recommend for walking in self-love? Like making self-love the habit.
Ooh, okay. You know, what's funny, I don't know if this is necessarily comedic. I don't know why I said what's funny. But I would say that first and foremost, beyond the journaling, beyond the things that like people say will actively help cultivate self-love, because it's true, they all will. I also believe that we are all here with some really crazy gifts. And like I said to you earlier, I know that when I leave this podcast, I will feel the best I felt all week. Because when I'm doing this, I'm accessing something. I'm in a sort of flow that I cannot describe to you guys, but I'm buzzing and I'm leaving feeling more confident than any amount of working out and journaling and meditation could possibly provide to me. I can't explain it to you. And I believe that we all have these unique gifts. Even if you haven't feel like you found it yet, I can promise you you are utilizing it every single day and you don't even realize it. It might be the gift of communication. And yeah, maybe you're not podcasting yet, but have you listened to the way that you even just talk to your friend on the phone? And how good you are with your words and how good you are with translating the feelings that your friend is feeling and giving them advice. There's something in that. So for me, using my gifts always puts me back in like, oh my gosh, I'm so fine. Oh my gosh, I'm going to be so okay. And I believe that we have millions. I don't think that it's this one crazy thing that we're incredibly gifted at. And for some people, it really is. And it's like you see a lot of, I don't know, I love using jazz musicians as an example of this. Because,
it's a good example.
Yeah. A lot of them are just born. One of my best friends is an amazing organist.
Oh, cool.
And for me in my music journey, it took a lot of me teaching myself in the last like 3 years how to like play an instrument or how to do certain things. For him, it just is what it is. He literally popped out the womb playing the organ. Like, it is what it is, you know? And so some people really have that gift that is like it holds, I feel like, dominance over their other gifts. For me, I've found such a passion for exploring all the different ones, and that might just be a part of my calling, or maybe I die with one thing that I love. There's literally no way that's going to happen. Like, I feel like there's going to be so many things I'm going to want to do. But yeah, doing something that I'm really confident in does cultivate a sense of self-love within me. That I feel like that's how I walk in my purpose. One of the many ways I walk in my purpose is doing things that energize me and that I feel confident in.
Yeah, I like that. You doing things, and that sounds like some Abraham Hicks a little bit. Like it's like the good actions cascade into good actions, and good feelings cascade into more good feelings. It's the same concept as like, which spiral do you want to be on? You got the negative spirals, you can keep running down that path well, there's also upward spirals that continue to go up and get better and better and better. And it's just like those actions, doing what's in front of you, accepting what is, cascade into, it sets you up automatically to the next best situation.
Always.
Like,
We don't
it
have
just
to do
sets you up.
anything. Always. That's a really important part of this is like when you're in that bliss, when you just trust, when you let go, every conversation you need to have, everything will be set up for you because there really is a natural flow of the universe. And it is terrifying to trust that, but it exists. And whenever I give my faith to that, I'm going to sound a little insane right now, so stick with me.
Okay, but before you say that, then faith is just acting as though it's acting as though it already is there. So it's the acceptance of what is before it is.
The accepting of what is before it is. Yes, yes, yes. So even all the things I don't know, allow them. They can exist. That's totally fine. I'm okay with that. And just trusting that it's going to unfold in all the ways that it's supposed to.
Okay, so what are you going to say that sounds crazy?
Okay, so
That I'm already excited for?
okay. I promise you guys, I've leaned into this before and it's worked. A lot of us with those beautiful hyperactive brains of ours, I think that it can be easy to worry that we're not going to get certain stuff done. That stuff is going to miss us because it has in the past when we haven't written it down and then suddenly we miss this and miss that. I've found that when I fully let go and just allow everything that's supposed to come into my vortex and my environment come in, everything I need gets taken care of. Like all the trivial stuff too, the little stuff, like gotta take care of your taxes. There'll be that one person that comes in that's like, that reminds you to take care of your taxes and do it at a certain time, and it gets done. But it's just like, I don't know, I was talking about this with my friend the other day because he's created a system where he creates lists for himself, and if he doesn't do certain things, he gives himself a consequence. And I'm like, that couldn't be me. I don't think so.
He's disciplining himself.
And I love
Go
that.
to timeout.
I love that for him.
You didn't do it the right way.
See, I love that for him. It might really work for him. For me, I don't know if I'd ever like escape that sense of like something bad is going to happen if I don't do this. And I feel like I've had to work really hard to free myself of that. But I find that
kudos to him. That takes discipline and willpower to place that over yourself.
Yeah.
Me, I would just like be hard on myself for a long period of time.
Right.
And that is it's actually not different.
It's really beautiful. Right.
It's not different what I would do in the past.
You're so right. Because
It's
it's more of like a tangible consequence. And it's the same thing as creating those consequences.
Mental anguish that's not necessary and it's not necessary to put yourself through.
Oh my gosh. See, I think he might just be 10 steps ahead of me.
No, not at all, because I just worded what you said a little differently.
You did that in the car earlier. He's really good at that. Josh was really good at translation. That's a gift for sure. And that's why, this podcast is definitely part of your calling, but like.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah, appreciate it.
I mean that. But it's funny that I wasn't judging my friend for that by any means. Cause again, I think that everyone has something to teach us, but I was like, that's definitely can't be my way. But in some ways it has been my way because the consequence can be, like you said, the mental anguish.
It's actually it might be more powerful to separate what he's doing is, you're saying, a system.
Yeah.
It's definitely a step up from like the depths that I would put myself through.
Yeah.
Because that was like not even necessarily conscious mental anguish that I was creating. Like I would just sit in it,
right,
and feel bad because I did XYZ not good enough, or about life. Like I'm not as far as I want to be, or I'm not doing as much as I want to. Those thoughts, and then actually like letting them sit and letting them stay. When those are just monkey brain thoughts that can just move right along. They don't need to stick around. But that kind of punishment is so much worse. That's so much worse than what sounds like a system, like where you're just like, oh, well, I don't get to eat a brownie today.
No, literally, yeah. It's not like he's like doing like hardcore, like waterboarding himself. It's like 25 push-ups. And so maybe that allows him, oh, this is beautiful actually, how I'm coming to this conclusion right now. Because Because in a sense, I almost like automatically put us in a category of operating differently when really I think he may have a better system than me. And I'm not telling anyone to go make consequences for themselves, but it is cool that he can like compartmentalize that consequence, or I don't know if that was the right word, but like have that exist in a space, then let it go after that rather than like beating on himself for it. And he also has a reward system. So he gets to like eat a brownie or something if he does one of the things on his list within 3 days of writing it down. If he gets one of those things done, then he rewards himself. However, I challenged him to this, and his way may really work for him, and any way that anyone operates may really work for him. Whenever I let go, all of the things I used to obsess over, but what if I don't do this? What if I don't get that done? What if this doesn't happen? And you almost like, you just like live in that, ends up flowing into my vortex, my existence, my environment. Somehow, some way it's taken care of. And guess what? When it doesn't, it probably wasn't that important.
Right.
And I get to free myself over obsessing over these, because we can almost thrive off of that accomplishment. We can thrive. Because we've been taught that accomplishment is equated with success. And so I feel like often we can obsess over the small accomplishments we can have in a day, or even if it's random stuff, get the workout done, do the errands, and it feels good at the end of the day, but it doesn't feel like how I could feel by the end of this podcast. You know what I'm saying?
But earlier we mentioned that we get to program this being that we manifested into.
Yeah.
And that system that you're describing is separating identity and value into, I'm just programming the computer brain that I have that is, we can look at it like a computer or a system, that I'm just reprogramming the system that already is. And earlier we mentioned that, it just takes time for the brain to catch up sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like a great system to help that process, like help your brain catch up, because after time, it's just like, that reward system, the brain
so true
starts to forget those, like the worst stuff, and only puts in the right stuff, because the reward system's getting more dominant.
Yes. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I love how we really how much we transformed that one thing that initially I perceived in a certain way, and actually made it like really beautiful.
It's really beautiful.
Really amazing thing to do.
Yeah, it's powerful.
Wow.
It's really powerful.
David, if you're out there, shout out to you, brother.
Heck yeah.
Some really powerful stuff you're doing.
You're the man. Systems for the brain.
Yes. Dope.
Okay, so let's move along to our next category in self-love. Another matter of what self-love is not, which is self-judgment. So can you tell us how to reduce self-judgment? Let's kind of talk a little bit about that.
How to reduce self-judgment. It really does. I'm going to go back to like the thing I was saying before, which is literally like every single version of, at least holding the awareness that every single version of myself is necessary. This is what I say. I say like every single version of myself, the judgmental one. I even love her. I love her.
Remember the mic.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
But you love her. You just love her.
I love her so much because she just wants me to be better, and I love that she wants me to thrive. Like that's her intention. That I know her intention. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna change the way she speaks a little bit. I'm gonna correct her on a few things, and me and her will have a talk. I don't hate her. I love her. She's trying to bring me to a really good place, so I support her.
So what it sounds like you're doing is you're separating your identity, the ego, this body from who you are, because none of this is who you are. Like, you're behind all that, the observer.
Yes.
So you're able to separate those things, and that sounds like now that you put it that way, or that I hear that from what I'm hearing, it's like separating yourself from everything can help you reduce self-judgment, because messing up a task or not doing a task, I think more often than not, it's the things we don't do that really get to us. The things that we don't get done that we think we should get done.
There will always be something.
Well, you don't have to judge yourself so much if you separate yourself from the person who's not doing it. That's not you. The best version of you is out here doing it. Is out here making it.
Yeah, like the best version of you, like, believe it or not, is actually that one right now. It's just a little change in story. Because you just accomplished something, and then immediately you went to what you haven't done yet. And this morning I was writing, I wrote this down, and I was like, yo, like, we're just inventors, and of course you're going to get more ideas once you finish an invention, because you probably learned so much from that invention that it brought in so many more ideas for the next invention. That's beautiful. Life is creation. We are creation. You're going to want to continue creating till you die. Like, you will die with a to-do list. Listen, you will die with a to-do list.
I've never heard that. That's good.
You will always
really
be
good.
hungry, because think about, we are just creation. We are made from whether you believe in God made us, source made us, but your parents made you, whatever it was, something created you. So of course that's innate to your being is creation. However, what a thrill in actually being able to enjoy the invention that you just created. Like, I feel like sometimes we're like, oh, let's play with it for a little bit. Do you know how long you spent on that invention? Because you wanted, like, to play with it for a little bit. So I always say, like, every time you accomplish something, like, revel in it. I'm not saying revel in it for like a day. I mean literally live out that life that you just created for yourself in every single way. And naturally, the next invention will come in. And you know what I love? Abraham Hicks says this, and I'm like, woo, that's a juicy one. I haven't heard that. Even when that divine inspiration comes in, even when that idea comes in, even when you realize, oh my gosh, I have to write that book, even still, don't move unless you really feel compelled to. Sometimes people will like get that inspiration, they'll sit down to write, and then they can't come up with anything, and they'll think that just means they shouldn't write any at all. Sometimes you're supposed to sit with the idea that's energizing you and just allow it to energize you.
Yeah.
What if the idea is just supposed to exist as a way to energize you that day? What if it was
that day?
What if it was
That's
never
a good way to
supposed
bring it
come
down to into perspective. Like, it's just this day. It's just this day. Like, tomorrow doesn't exist yet, but what you do today for yourself today allows you to have a tomorrow.
Yes. And
and we can always go back to, like, the past really doesn't matter. Like, people say that, yet we still live there, and we can't let go of it.
Yeah, exactly. And that idea, like, it might turn into something else by tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like, it might be something 10 times better. And, if you, I'm, like, also act on your ideas, especially if you feel like fear's holding you back.
Yeah. What you do today, right now, in front of you, and I'm speaking to myself when I say these things, like, it's just like, I have to get into this and internalize it forever.
Yes.
It's what you do right now in front of you that's the best thing you can do.
Yes.
And in the program I'm in, we talk about just do the next right thing.
That's what Abraham says too. She always says, just do the next best thing.
The next best thing
It doesn't have to be climbing Mount Everest tomorrow. It doesn't have to be you get up right now and you wipe everything off your desk. You say, I quit my job, everyone. It doesn't have to be something so extreme, though I often operate in extremes because
we're extreme people.
I've seen it work.
Exactly. We're extreme people.
Yes, and we get a little bit of a thrill off of it.
I feel extreme. I live extreme.
Oh, it's a good way.
I walk extreme. I drive. No, I don't really try to drive too extreme, but sometimes I do.
And it always, you'll find that, like, through and through, you always end up being okay. Like, wherever you are, you're still sitting here listening to this podcast somehow, some way. Joshua and I are still sitting across from each other. Like, you know that you're going to be okay. So, like, just take a chance on letting go of, like, the how on some level. Like, just allow that for yourself, because you don't deserve to be in a constant state of discipline and a constant state where, like, you're just imagining something, an entity is watching over you and saying good, bad, good, bad. That's you. That's not you, but that's you. That's just a little.
And that sounds like a little bit of Buddhist principles, which, like, not principles, but philosophy, where existence is painful, but suffering is optional.
Ooh.
So, and if you are judging yourself, suffering is optional. Every time you judge yourself for something you did in the past, or you're currently not doing that you know you need to be doing, you're just creating suffering for yourself. And again, this is messages to myself. Like, this is stuff I'm learning real time, like right now as we speak, like stuff that I'm embodying in my life, where I can live much, much lighter. And by lighter, I mean, like, just, it doesn't have to be so heavy. If you don't make it heavy, like, you realize that you're the creator of it. You create what you're doing.
How do you do that? How do you just make things lighter? Because I think people hear that and they're probably like, well, how do I just take it all off? Like, what's your thing for that?
Just do the next right thing.
Yeah, the next best thing. And it's not, it doesn't have to be.
All I can do is all I can do.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's in front of me.
Yeah.
Even when I'm at my best, like when I'm feeling the best, like I'm feeling pretty great right now. It's discussing what's working.
Yeah.
And those positive thoughts cascade positive thoughts, which make positive actions cascading into positive actions.
Nice. There's nothing like having a good conversation when you're going through something. And I mean a good conversation, like going to the people who want to know your best version of you, like know you so well that they're able to call you out on your shit. And when you're not being that, not necessarily people who will be like, yeah, bro, like we're going down. Just like, because we could do that all day. I think it's easy. There's a time and place.
It's easy to get into negative spaces.
Yeah, and like
and that's the pitfall. That's the trick. That's the game.
Yeah.
It's not a hard one to be, as long as you don't think it is. It's all a matter of perception. Yeah. It really is. And that's cliche to say, but it really is. Like, it's a matter of how you're perceiving life. And I, years ago, started saying mentality creates reality. And I actually had people questioning that and saying, well, I can't just think life is good when I'm suffering. But at the same time, and later in life, I've met people with the same problems, and they're like super happy and super okay because they're just living in what is. Right. It's like, it is what it is. Right. Like getting the flat tire last week and hitting the pothole, it is what it is. It is what it is. And it's just always going back to that.
I think that what happens is in the acceptance of every circumstance and the acceptance of, at least in the way I live my life, like, you could say, oh, she lives in unicorn land. Shit, then I live, I live in unicorn land. It makes it so that, like, our brain over time is actually starting to filter, like, the beautiful things in every situation. Mm-hmm. And in that, I think that's people, like, yes, insane things do randomly happen. I think that miracles aren't miracles. I think that there's a natural flow of life that's actually quite like innate to our existence and normal. But then because we're not always operating like this, but then sometimes we do, and those miracles happen. We're like, whoa, it's crazy, it's a miracle. But I think it's really how we're supposed to live. Like, things are like supposed to like kind of flow to us and go pretty easy. But when
you're not resisting anything, things flow.
Yes, and things start to, like, your brain starts to see more, starts to pick up on more of what's for you. And so that's how you're given, like, the step to the next thing, or, like, not that life is, an extreme, I don't know, journey to some crazy destination. But I do like to think of it as, like, you're more easily able to recognize positive aspects that are in alignment with who you are when you condition your brain to be this way. Mm-hmm. And so you can call that manifestation, you can call it what you want.
Yep, you can use whatever word you want.
Yeah, but you're turned on to what's for you.
Yep.
That then leads to the next answer, or, whatever amount of money you want, or, like, whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? Yep. Like, because you're just tuned in to what will get you there more easily versus, like, oh, like, there's no way that today in the coffee shop I could, have the most mind-blowing interaction.
If you're listening and you're listening or you're watching on YouTube and you're hearing this and it could be any point in life, like, you're having the thought that, oh, well, those people are doing it and those people are having, like, getting what they want, but it's not for me. Like, I have this family, I have these bills, I have these negative things going on in life. So are we all, but at the same time, those are lies. Like, that's a lie. Like, saying that you can't have what you want and can't live the life to the maximum happiness is a lie. Like, that's a lie that that those thoughts that you're having is a lie, because it's within all of our, I would say grasp. It's like, it's within our grasp, but it's not within our grasp necessarily. It's within your scope of capability to reach that state where you are at your happiest.
And literally like 95% of it, like people don't realize is what we can't see. Like only about 5% is like actually like our external environment. You cannot base your life on like directly what you're seeing in front of you.
Yeah. What's that spectrum? Like we only see like a tiny, I can't remember what the percentages are, but the human brain can only perceive a tiny fraction of the spectrum. Like if reality is a spectrum, the human brain can only perceive a teensy tiny fraction of it. Now, I think that our spirit or, soul, heart, whatever, can perceive probably all of it.
Right.
And that's why I often have experiences where like, thanks, higher self. Like,
Yes.
whoa, like
Yes.
I
Yes.
was over here not realizing that I was in a really bad situation, but you let me skate through it
Yes.
unscathed somehow,
Yes.
other than minor cuts and bruises, figuratively.
Yeah. Nice.
And it's just like we get that tiny scope,
Yes.
that tiny part of it, and it doesn't have to be everything. I love that you said it's like what we see in front of us isn't everything.
Yes. And you'll have moments where it does actually start to get reflected back to you in your external environment.
Yeah,
And
it's what we're meant to like focus on.
yes.
It's because it's what's in front of you.
Yes.
It's what you're feeling. It's what you're seeing.
Oh, what a dance it is. We're like,
So you're
one
meant
moment
to
we're
do
like,
that.
what's in front of you?
But you don't have to
present,
worry
and
about
then-
the rest.
Yes. We're exploding right now. It's such a, okay, just surrender to it all. Like, don't try and do any mathematics about how the best way to do this is. Like, do some things that really just make you laugh. Like, go hang out with your friends. Like when you're with those people that just make you feel like your best self and you're just laughing all night. It's in those moments where I'm like, wow, pretty sure I'm gonna die and just realize that we're just here to have a good time. We're here to have fun. We're here. And then when the manifestations and things like that come in, oh, how good they're gonna feel when they arrive, because I've already been living my life in such a way that's so beautiful and so blissful and so much the embodiment of the intention of why I put these manifestations in the first place that I barely even noticed when it came in. It was like icing on the freaking cake, because you don't know.
I can't remember who said it. It's like you get the cake and eat it too when you're in that state.
Yes.
But change is constant, right? The only thing that is constant is change. So if I'm not moving towards my happiness, towards my success, towards my best self constantly, I'm moving away from it. I'm moving the other direction. And for me, like within the past month, I was really depressed and down, like in a bad way. And I, obviously didn't want to be there, but I was allowing it. I was allowing it to be.
You know dang well, and as I'm sure you're finding out now because you're having these better moments now, it always passes.
It always passes.
It always passes.
That's another thing in the program people talk about is like, this too will pass. I don't know where that came from, that phrase, but this too will pass.
Yes.
I've seen it everywhere.
Yeah, and there's a reason for it. For as many times as there's been these months where you were down and out, and then there's been these crazy ones where you felt amazing. Like, just like, it can feel so convincing in the moment, especially if like the day will go on forever and ever and ever. And time can feel convincing in that way. I know. We're here for a physical experience. So when we experience emotions don't know time.
Right.
So they're just like, end of the world. You know dang well there'll be a moment in time when you're thriving with your friends somewhere camping and you're laughing and you're not alone. Like whatever it is, there's going to be a different moment, and like surrendering to that. Like, because you just don't deserve to constantly be like, oh, you're not doing enough of this, you're not doing enough of that. What's the advice if your friend called you and she was depressed or he was depressed?
Right. You're going to give them the best advice
Yes.
for what they want. If they ask you, because you can't give someone advice unless they ask. Like it's not within bounds.
Oh, I don't know that I know that.
To give someone detailed advice about the way they should live their life. Like it's not within my control to live anyone else's life.
Yes.
So therefore it's also not within bounds for me to say, you are doing this and you should be doing this.
Yes.
But when someone asks me, I will let them have it. I'll tell them. But now I got to do that for me.
Yeah.
I can't just be able to do it for other people. And you listening can probably do it for other people too. But we got to do it for ourselves.
Absolutely.
And that actually answers our next question. Not to interrupt you.
Okay.
Do you want to say something?
And in that, I feel like we can learn as much from the same people we're asking, how do I put that? Next question.
So that actually answers the staying positive even when you have negative thoughts, as well as forgiving yourself when you aren't nice to yourself until being nice to yourself is the habit. So we just covered both those in in everything we just talked about.
Yeah. I say like relentless, radical forgiveness. I mean extreme forgiveness.
I love that wording.
I mean, you literally think you just did the most self-destructive thing in the entire world, and still you say, and I love you. And I love you for that. Mm-hmm. And I know this is...
And that takes great strength.
It does.
You can do it, though.
Yeah, there's going to be something in you being like, oh, if you let go too much, you're going to die. If you let go... You know what I love? Oh, I love this one. Abraham brought this idea to me. Not personally through her podcast, but one day. And she said that, when you're trying to break a negative habit and you're in a place of shame and judgment, you're going to have no desire to break that negative habit because we're going to use the word again, low frequency. So you're just going to keep choosing low frequency options. When you release yourself into, I don't really know what's going to go on. I'm just going to surrender to this. I accept that this thing isn't great for me. I accept that it's not awesome for me to be, if the negative habit is like eating grass. It's not great for me. Guys, don't eat grass. But like, I don't... It's not great.
She looked outside and saw grass.
I did. Grass is always in my metaphors too, and I think it's because like I make my videos like mostly outside, and I always see grass, so that's the first thing that comes to my mind. But
you're the best metaphors.
Thank you so much.
The little squirrel.
Oh, I do love using nature a lot in my metaphors. Wow, that's so true. But if the negative habit's eating grass, and you're constantly on yourself about eating grass, maybe you could stop for like a day or two, but the shame's still gonna be there, and you're just gonna be like, you know what, F it, like I'm just gonna eat some grass. Like, I accept that I eat grass and I love myself anyway. You're gonna be in a higher frequency, in a more forgiving place, and you're probably gonna choose to eat tree branches, which might be better for you than grass, because you're in a more accepting place. Don't eat tree branches either, you guys. The metaphors today are a little bit weaker, not gonna lie. But when you're just not in that place of shame, you are naturally
go for kale.
Yeah, you're going to make healthier decisions because you're just in a happier place. And when we're in that higher frequency, we are attracted to higher frequency options.
Massaged, little lemon juice in there.
Yeah.
Got to bring out the right stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, that's what I have to say about that, about forgiveness.
Excellent. I love it. I love all the ways you word things.
Thank you.
It's impressive. Thank you. The metaphors are like so relatable because it's just like it's things that you wouldn't normally like connect to things, and you're just like, oh yeah, like that makes, like I get that, I can get that.
I think it simplifies things for me because my brain goes in so many directions that if I don't really generalize and simplify things, I mean really simplify them like squirrels, like then I'm trying to overcomplicate everything. So I think that's why I love metaphors.
Yeah, I do too. It's pretty sure the wisest people in history use a lot of metaphors and what do they call it? Parables? Yeah.
Parables. See, I haven't heard that word.
Parables is like a story of metaphors, and each part of each character or item in the story is a metaphorical item or person relating to something in real life or in another sense.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, my first thought goes to Jesus spoke in parables. The man known.
He was the man of the parables.
Of Bethlehem.
Oh, the Bible's a parable then, right?
You could say.
I guess that's up for it. I guess that's subjective or whatever. I guess that's an opinion.
I love the way you take things. So, I would love to ask you this next question. So we're not going to necessarily future trip, but we're going to talk about something from the future.
Oh, fun, because then we still have fun with future.
Because
future means that we get to just envision things. And
it's
we love
imaginary and it's up to interpretation for your best future.
Love it.
So my question is, if the version of you 10 years from now, the successful musician, writer, poet, social media guru,
thank you, Josh,
whatever you want to imagine her as, if she walked up to you right now, like she came across the field there and she had some like advice for you, what would she say?
Just chill out, sit down, it's all gonna happen no matter what, you have no choice. Everything you want's happening. Literally, like, stressing about it can only make it not fun. Everything you want is absolutely inevitable, and it's going to unfold in so many more ways then you can fully understand and even conceptualize. So get out of your own way, because what you think is coming, it's 100 times better. So why don't you just get out of your own way and just have fun with your friends, write some fun poems, make some fun music. One of the first songs I actually ever made, and no one's heard it before, not because I'm embarrassed about it, but only because I can't find it. But it's called Jello, and it's a rap about Jello. And I put so much pressure on myself to what was my first full recorded song gonna be? Pouring out my heart, align with your higher self. And then like the first song came out of me when like nothing mattered, and I was just like on the floor one day having so much fun with myself. It's a song about Jello and all the different colors.
How many rhymes did you come up with for
so
Jello?
Many. Red, yellow, then red, yellow. There's red Jello, there's yellow Jello. You know what? Now I really have to find the song. So she would literally be like, keep making songs about Jello, like, and she would just tell me that the unfolding was inevitable, and 10 times better than what my current brain could conceptualize, given my current experiences. So that's what she would tell me.
It's really good. It's powerful.
Thank you for asking. Do you mind if I actually throw the question back? Because I'm really curious.
So the me from 10 years from now would definitely say, keep getting out of your own way, because you've been standing in your own way for far too long, or just as long as it's been taking. But it's now time to take more steps in the direction of out of your way. Everything you have is everything you need. Everything you have done has led you to where you are right now, which is exactly where you need to be.
Oh, gosh.
Just keep being where you're being. That's what he would say.
There are two people right now in a different podcast that just answered this question, and we're like, work harder, hustle harder, grind, grind, grind. And you know what? That advice, like, there's a world in which I love listening to that podcast, and I love that advice, and that's a version of me too. But wow, like the weightlessness of this conversation that I feel is just like where I want to be.
Yeah, I agree.
You know?
For sure.
It's beautiful.
I love it. It's really good. Because I've got to the point where I'm like, I'm doing a lot and I'm working hard, and like working hard isn't the issue anymore. And a lot of people like work really freaking hard their whole life, and what do they have to show for it? I don't want to be that. I don't want to work really hard at the wrong things. So I'm now working really hard on several things. And if I just get out of my own way and let what takes place take place, it will take place.
Oh, it always does. It has no choice but to take place. Philosophies by Clotilda and Joshua.
Yeah.
Really popping off today.
Take place.
Take place. But for real though, like, it's gonna inevitably happen. Here's the thing. We are always trying to go for the best version of every circumstance in our life. But is that always the goal in terms of like the way I think about it with social media? And I love to coach people on like, building an audience and things like that, but truly just through just having fun with it and just being your most natural, most authentic self, not like obsessing over algorithms and things like that.
Right. Because that's all part of it.
Yeah.
But it's not the important parts.
Yeah. I mean, I've never studied it a day in my life. And could there be a world where I'm at 100 million followers because I did this and did that? Maybe. Is that the goal though, constantly? Mm-mm. To always be maximizing? Like, it's going to be really fun when that happens. Like, it's going to be like, ooh, wow. Like, I envisioned this for myself and it really did happen. That's beautiful to know that I'm such a powerful creator and that I am the best artist in the entire world
for yourself.
For myself. Yeah. And creating my own reality. Whoa, how cool. But is that like the constant everyday like mode I want to live in? is like not enough, not enough, not enough yet, not enough yet. No, just like free yourself into like having fun. And naturally what's meant for you when you're in that state will happen. And often like what we think is meant for us isn't always what's best for us.
Right.
So surrender to that there might be a plan for you that's a million times better.
Yep. And that goes back to that. You only got a small piece of the spectrum of the puzzle when there's a million piece puzzle out here.
So many pieces. It's infinite.
Yeah.
It's infinite.
Yeah, it truly is.
Yeah.
Because there's no limit. Yeah, you're right.
Kind of reminds me of those
there's
puzzles.
No limit.
You know those puzzles that are like, say it's like a jungle puzzle or something, and it's just like the tiger, but then fading into like the toucan. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
But they're not really like with each other. They're just like popping out in the puzzle, like, and so like
exploding out of the puzzle.
They're exploding, and so it's
wait. Where did the toucan come from?
Toucans are a part of the jungle, right?
Yeah.
That's where it came from.
The jungle exploding out of itself.
Yeah. So you never know what the next
freedom
image, yes, and your puzzle's gonna be. All you know is like the next best piece.
Yeah.
Like, ooh, I'm in red right now, and so I'm gonna choose another red piece because it's fit with the last red piece. Yeah. And then
that's deep.
Maybe it starts to change colors, so you get a little worried because you're like, well, now I don't know if, like, that part in the puzzle, it's easy when you're in the solid, and it's like you're in a flow because you're in the red color, and so all you need is red pieces. But eventually that image is done, and then you have to search for the next piece, but you don't really know exactly what it looks like, but you find the next best one.
What if you just stop looking?
Whoa.
Because that would be actual surrender, which would be actual peace, because you're not...
Pieces. Wow, I'm surprised that
got me.
I'm actually blown away. That was the first pun of mine in this entire episode. I usually only speak in puns. It's my only language I know. It's a moment of silence.
Very punny.
Very funny.
No punny.
I actually have I have a poem in my poetry book. Quick plug. I have a poem in my poetry book called Realizations I Had While Doing a Puzzle. And wow, I was just exploding with realizations while doing a puzzle. And one of them was that, when you're like trying to find the piece, you just get so frustrated and just like worked up over it, and it's just so hard to find it. And as soon as you let go, you always find that piece. I don't know how it even works. I can't tell you, but it always happens. Yeah.
That's super deep again. Staying in the deep. What is that? Rolling in the deep. Rolling in the deep.
Shout out to Adele.
Yep. Peace. We love you. Okay. So is there anything that you'd like to share with your audience, this audience, or the world in general? Because video is forever. This is going into the interwebs. What would you like to say anything to anybody? Maybe general message or...
I'll be retiring. No, I'm kidding. This is my final interview.
As you recede into the shadows.
Wow. This will be forever on the interweb. That was quite the introduction to this question. And yeah, I do.
Video is forever. Like someone 10 years from now is watching.
Whoa. That's freaking Hi, future everyone. That's crazy. Wow. Okay. Let me think about this.
I've actually posed it before as future generations.
Whoa.
Are watching.
And now with the internet, like, yeah, you're right. This could, like, 500 years from now, someone will probably have access to this.
It's possible.
Right?
Very,
because
very
we have
possible.
Access to like fossils and stuff right now. So these are going to be the future's fossils.
It could be.
NFTs.
Yes. With her newfound understanding.
Yeah. Wait.
Of Web 3.0.
So I just want to tell my audience, like, invest in crypto. Like, get your NFT. No, I'm kidding, guys. I don't know anything about any of it. So don't. One day
Are you
though.
gonna release some NFTs?
Yeah, I feel like there's a version of me that's like a crypto queen in like 5 years.
A crypto queen.
Yeah, the passion's not there yet. So it's funny, the other day, like, I had to do like
I don't know why I said it like that.
I liked it. It was great. It was inspiring. I did a workshop, like a interdisciplinary arts workshop, and we had to say like one artistic thing we love to do and one thing that like we just never see ourselves doing. I literally could not write down what I couldn't see myself doing. Like I could Like I couldn't. And so I asked him, I was like, I think I'll die with a million more things that I want to do. Like I want to do them all. He's
Right.
like, no, just write down a few. I'm like, no, I literally can't. I think I see myself doing it all. Now, the one thing
You're at that like 30,000 foot view.
someone taught me about 30,000 feet yesterday. Have you heard about this?
No, tell me.
Okay, I'm trying to remember. It was actually Itzel who taught me this. What is it? Something about once you've reached, I guess 30,000 feet is like maybe the, what's it called? The height that like for climbers or someone, like if you reach 30,000 feet, like you're a climber. I don't know what it is.
I believe it's also
the interval point.
Average height jets fly at.
Maybe that's why. Oh, so yeah, you can reach this point and not get hit by a jet.
But it makes sense for climbers as well. Like you're
Right?
you're legit at that level.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
I guess that's what it is. So there's a whole thing behind. So that was just cool that you said 30,000 feet.
And I've heard it as 30,000 foot view, or I've never heard anyone say it any other, like 50,000 foot view, 20 foot. I heard someone say 30,000 view as, you're just way up there. You're just way up and having that
Yeah,
big world space.
Maybe that's when
and
it's
sometimes
like,
you
whoa.
get, it's kind of like a connotation of like, hey, you ground yourself, get back to earth.
Yeah.
Be back down here, where right in front of you. Like I often have a 30,000 foot view if I'm overthinking life or like, life in general. Like,
Yeah.
and I gotta bring myself back down to earth.
Yeah. Oh, that's why I love my walks. Because I'm like, wow. Yeah, wait. Shout out to nature. Shout out to walks. I'm surprised I haven't talked about it yet. I would say over everything, it's probably the one thing that always really, truly does bring me back to myself. I said my passions earlier. I'm going to add on nature right now. Well, nature is one of my passions, actually. So, but when I am with the trees, when I'm in nature, when there's just...
Okay, pause.
When I am with the trees, when I am with nature, I can't describe it, but I feel perfect. Like, I feel accepted. I feel back to myself again.
Yeah.
So that's
Only naturally. It is what is natural.
Was that our second pun of the podcast? Naturally. But yeah, it literally is just like, I don't know, go on a walk. Like if those thoughts are going this place, go on a freaking walk.
Yeah.
And just like feel the breeze, breathe a little bit. And if you don't feel great by the end of it, fine, accept it, love yourself anyway.
All right, you heard it here. Future generations, if you're hearing this now,
Go on a walk.
and there's trees and there's grass, walk around it.
Walk around it. Oh no, what if they're like, oh, where's the grass? Go find I was gonna say like, go find like a screen that has a tree on it. Like watch the screen.
If you're on Mars and you're a colonist listening,
Yeah. Good luck. No, I'm kidding. Yeah. Hello. I know. For me, I'm like, ooh, future generations. And I just want to ask them questions.
and if you're listening and not watching, I did the Star Trek, what is it? Live long and prosper.
I just copied you. I didn't know that was the Star Trek thing.
Star Trek symbol for live long and prosper.
Whoa. I love that a lot, actually. I'm going to start doing that. Looks a little funky.
Star Trekky people will love you.
Okay, yeah. I never really got hip to Star Trek. But okay, you said one piece of advice for future generations. It's definitely going to walk. I think I want to add something though. Understand, because this is going to be translatable, transversable. What's the word?
Transcending, I think.
Transcending?
It transcends time.
Okay.
What
yeah,
you're about to
this is
say
gonna
transcends
transcend
time.
I believe that everyone has something extremely unique and incredible to bring to the table. No matter who you are and where you're at as of right now, you have a gift. You have something or something, so many gifts that you can provide something to society that society needs you for. Not just wants you for, not just like this is like a casual thing that's going to help you out. No. Like no one has done it the exact way you've done it.
Yep. Only you can say it the way you're going to say it. Only you can do it the way you're going to do it.
Yes. Lean fully
And you can make a
into
living
that.
doing it.
Yes.
Whatever that
Yes.
thing is.
Someone needs you for
And that's
it.
really, back to entrepreneurship and, this podcast for the Entrepreneur. Everything that we've talked about is necessary to enter that space where you can get paid to do what you love to do.
Yes.
And I love what you're saying. Everyone has a unique part of that, a unique piece
Yes. And I think that like,
that they bring to the table.
yes, just because they haven't exercised that part of it is, I think only, struggle entrepreneurs will find
I'm an
sometimes
entrepreneur.
is because it can be a new journey, for a lot of like younger people too. So there's such a big part of the business journey is those like self-limiting beliefs that come up because you just haven't done this before. Keep leaning into what makes you different. Like if you want to research what other people have done and have fun with it, do that. But don't research in such a way of, okay, this worked for this person, so it's going to work for me. And it might, but then there's a way that you do things that actually is probably going to work a million times better because it hasn't been done before, but you might not recognize the uniqueness of that. So you choose to go back on what someone else has done. And again, it might work. It might get you to the next step. But like, I think what truly they call it the third door, what truly is going to make you thrive is assuming the energy, the space of that which has not been assumed before. So do that. Freaking do that. Yo. Powerful.
Wow. Awesome. I'm so grateful that you were able to join me today on this episode of The Entrepreneur and be here in this space and provide this value for me and everyone that's listening and watching if you're on that platform. I'm really grateful, and I'm sure everyone else is. Anything else you want to say before we go?
Thank you so much for asking all the right questions. It's really, really therapeutic for me to like reflect on these things. And I think that sometimes people listen to podcasts and think that the people that they're listening to have it all figured out. But really what I feel like having these conversations allows us to do is we recognize and see each other and see each other's potential. And you have a way of asking questions that extracts the best parts of me out and then allows me to speak on those parts and reminds me of who I am. And so that's why I say, I know I'll leave this conversation buzzing because you did that for me. So thank you for asking the right questions and allowing me to do this because it's really powerful to have these conversations. I think that through and through, sometimes it's this stuff that reminds us of who we are. And it could have been an hour ago that you and I were having judgmental thoughts of ourselves or like whatever it was. And then we just get to liberate each other through this. So thank you. I'm really grateful for you. And it's been an honor to be on this podcast.
You have been an honorable guest, and it's been a pleasure to have you. So thank you again. And thank you to those who are listening. If you're still watching at this point, I love you more than you would even know. And I'll see you next time on The Entrepreneur.
Bye, guys.